This is the unscripted commentary on my weekly Devar Torah for the Parsha. If you haven't watched it yet, click on the info card or link in the description.
We all live with a painful inner conflict, a binary system of souls. The cure to the struggle lies not in our psyche, but rather in the cosmos.
So right away, the title is a bit provocative. Your soul is bipolar, but then I say they're souls. Because as we learn, and I'm going to get to later on in the Devar Torah, there are two souls inside of you. There's the godly soul and the animal soul. So this bipolar nature, sometimes you're feeling very holy and you want to do good, something that's good. Sometimes you're not feeling so holy and you want to do something that's selfish. So this feels like a bipolar attribute, but it's really rooted from the fact that you have two competing souls inside of you, which is similar to Freud, the id, ego, and superego. But Hasidus predated that for some time.
In this week's Parsha, Abraham is assured that his progeny will be like the stars of the heavens. But surprisingly, our seemingly peaceful universe contains violent battlefields where over half of all stars exist in binary systems.
So my original focus was going to be on something I spoke about in Devarim, because that pasuk, that promise, that blessing that said you're going to be like the stars of the heavens. So there's two other places it's mentioned as well. Another place in Bereshis, in Genesis, and also in Devarim 1:10, Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 10. And I did a whole nother video on that. And so I figured, I'll go a different route. So we went the route of binary stars and connecting that to Yaakov and Esav.
Twin stars born
Since they're twins.
from the same gaseous nebula can evolve into opposites.
So nebulas are full of gas. They actually come, a lot of people don't realize this, these are also called stellar nurseries. And the idea is that you had early stars, they were all hydrogen and helium pretty much, and they rapidly evolved, got really big, hot, exploded. They created the heavier elements, and then some of the heavier elements, those got all mixed together in these gas clouds, and then you had new stars that formed from there. So new stars come from dead stars. So this idea of Tchias HaMesim, life from death, which is interesting. I spoke about that in V'zos Bracha. If you go check out the playlist, maybe I'll put an info card over here as well on the top. So what happens afterwards is that you'll have next generation stars, and they'll be mixing, and they'll have more metals and more elements and more dust, and then they'll continue to produce more and more from nuclear reactions until you get things like carbon and oxygen, nitrogen, etc. The building blocks for life.
Where one becomes a diffuse red giant while the other collapses into a dense core.
It doesn't have to necessarily be like this, but you can get there, where depending on the amount of mass in each one, even if from the same material, they can evolve in different ways. And so this is popular, that you'll have one that accretes and gets more massive, and then you'll have a nova explosion, which will be on the surface level and pop off. Eventually, if it gets enough material, it could create a type 1 supernova. And that's in contrast to type 2 supernova, which is the star itself had a certain amount of mass and it exploded. The type 1, I think it's about 1.44 solar masses, if my memory serves me correctly. Those are actually what we call standard candles, beyond the scope of this, but use that to actually try to figure out the acceleration rate of the universe.
This cosmic law of divergence is the story of the two nations struggling in Rivka's womb. Which twin wins determines everything. But what astrophysical mechanism decides the victor? The unexpected answer can be found.
So you see this a lot in videos, the like, subscribe, bell. It really does help the channel, and I see it when I look at the analytics. If a certain video has more likes, more subscribers, it will send it to more people. So okay, what's it matter? What does it matter to me? If you do that more for a video that you like, it actually does help the creator. And it only takes less than a second.
Found in stellar accretion, where the denser core in a binary star pair gravitationally pulls matter from its diffuse companion. This cosmic larceny is the model used in Jacob's theft of...
Give Al a text or call, tell him I sent you, he'll give you a special price, I promise.
Of the firstborn right, which turned out to be a generational inheritance. Jacob, as the archetype of tikkun, repair, was destined to refine the potent lights of tohu, chaos, from Esau's root, what she was unable to control. We see this playing out in astrophysics. The dense holy core, Jacob,
Torah and Science book. I'm working on it. Thankfully, I'm basing it on all the Devar Torahs. If you want sneak previews of them, especially when the PDF, I'm trying to work on one of the 5 books itself to send out as a free PDF, exclusive to newsletter recipients. So if you're not in the newsletter yet, send it. I do not do anything else with your email address, just to show you and also to give you heads ups when new videos come and some commentary as well. And the people enjoy them, get good feedback. So it's only to your benefit.
Must pull sparks from the diffuse material giant Esau.
So for those who are interested, behind the scenes, the platforms like YouTube and other social media are trying to reduce how often people are going off platform. So they actually, if you notice, like in your mobile, you have to like really click to see the description. So the pinned comment has become the way to send information. And even then, sometimes you won't even see the pinned comment. You see other comments. So you have to look for it. If you can't find it, leave a comment. I can send you the link, or it's about me in the channel.
When Esau despised his birthright, he remained a diffuse red giant, enabling Jacob to accrete physicality.
For those that know, Esau is also Edom because he was red and fully made. So the fact that it's a red giant is pretty cool.
But here's the paradox. If Jacob was ultimately entitled to this inheritance, why did he have to deceive Isaac, his father, to receive his blessing?
You get the question? If he was supposed to get it the whole time, why does he have to deceive? Why can't he just... And Yitzhak, they're all Siddiqim, they're all righteous people. Shouldn't they have known this? Why have to go through all this? Right? So you can have certain answers from the classical commentaries perspective, but I'm going to right now provide a unique answer from the science perspective, especially within the context of binary stars and accretion.
To begin to answer this, we need to understand that binary systems don't just transfer mass, they create new light.
Create new light. Or an idea of Yerida Tzechaliah. You go down for the sake of going up. Had to go through the struggles in order to create new light.
As accrued matter spirals onto the dense star, it heats to millions of degrees and ignites in a nova explosion significantly brighter than either star. When Jacob's voice wore the hands of Esau, he culminated...
For those that don't know, that's when his mother said, okay, put these on so you can trick your father to give you the blessings because he wants to give it to Esau. So put on the fur and the hands, and so that way when your father, Yitzchak, will feel you, he'll think that you're like Esau, who's hairy, like physically.
The spiritual accretion process initiated with the birthright incident, creating an explosion of benediction.
Someone like the benediction. Benediction is an older term for blessing. I thought I'd just throw it in there because a lot of times from letters from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he'll say a double helping of benediction. You should have double blessing. So I just like the word.
Rebecca, who orchestrated this episode, grasped what Isaac's worldview did not. Esau's chaotic tohu energy was misappropriated fuel. Material blessing must flow to a spiritual core because materialism is not an obstacle, it's propellant.
So that thing I just said is actually a deep Hasidic insight, started really from the Baal Shem. Because back in the olden days, you had this prevailing movement, especially in Europe, where the Litvishers and Haredim, however you want to call them, they were depriving themselves from defending that practice, let's say from a Musar perspective. And so they would sleep on benches and they would barely eat. And they would say, I'm just going to try to reduce as much contact with the world and only focus on Torah and learning and davening and mitzvahs. And that's it. I don't want as minimal. I don't want to deal with the world. I don't care. I'll live in a tiny little shack. I'll live in the back of the Beis Medrash. I'll eat a little bit of bread and that's it. I don't want to. I'll do laundry every once in a while. I don't want to deal with it. Just give me the minimum. I just want to sit and learn. So the Baal Shem Tov said, no, you're missing the point. We're here to establish a Der B'Tachtonim, a world for Hashem in the lowest realm, which includes not pushing away materialism, but embracing it for the sake of fulfilling Hashem's ultimate desire. And that's what was missing. And so you have to take materialism and use it, but it's dangerous because you might get sucked into enjoying the materialism and dealing with it. And you're like, well, I'm a neshama. What do I care about materialism? So the neshama's brought you into this world to elevate the material, not to shun it away. But you have to be careful. And that's why some groups still try to reduce as much as possible outward influence. And it is tricky, even within the Chabad movement. You see people, unfortunately, are leaving the path somewhat, some altogether, because they're too exposed to the outside world. You definitely see it in the mono-Orthodox world for sure. I tell people in the old days, we say they're Mesiras Nefesh, they would die for the cause. I actually call it Mesiras Guf, that they were willing to sacrifice their bodies. Today, in this generation, is Mesiras Nefesh, because it's really a battle of the souls. We're not oppressed. Okay, you have the anti-Semitism's on the rise. Okay, fine, but it's not like Nazi Europe, It's not like the pogroms, not like hundreds and hundreds of years, Okay, someone put a graffiti of a swastika on a shul or somewhere. Okay, it's a little scary, but you're not really in danger. I'm in Florida. I can open carry now. Open carry is the law of the land. I can walk around with a gun holstered in a holster, not in my hand, but in a holster. I can conceal carry without a permit, both of them. It's not like back then. We all have guns. We can defend ourselves. But at the same time, I can Uber Eats any type of food I want to my house and no one would ever know. I could sneak out and go to McDonald's. No one would ever know. Yeah, take off the yarmulke. No one ever knows. Okay, maybe I have the beard. Okay, fine. But you tuck in the tzitzis. So it's Mesiras Nefesh, right? It's my choice. It's only the Eibishter me that knows. So how do you navigate that? That's the difficulty. But that's part of the reason why these teachings and the videos I put are try to help to motivate to see how the Torah and science not just brought together, but the science is really showing the deeper Indian of Torah, and that should be as a motivator to say, even though I see the materialism, I am going to choose to live the right path despite all the challenges.
So, how do you compress it into a bright nova rather than diffuse darkness? That painful inner conflict we began this video with is the battlefield, the gravitational struggle between your godly soul and your animal soul. Be the dense core.
Like I said, I was brought down in Tanya, and that battle's there. Don't feel bad. Sometimes you have a good thought. Sometimes you have a thought that's not so good. Sometimes you feel excited. Sometimes you feel a little depressed. It's machinations, if that's how you say it. It's the workings. People always say of the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara wants to do the bad thing. Nefesh Bahamis, the animal soul, says, do what's selfish. So that's the battle going on. So who's the real you? Well, you have this battle going on. So sometimes it wages one way, sometimes it goes the other way. We have to take a step back and look at it transcendent, in like a transcendent type of light or viewpoint.
Transform the selfishness of your animal soul by reorienting it into the divine soul's flare of holiness.
So that's an idea in Chabad Chassidus, is to take that power, that passion of the animal. I remember once in yeshiva saying, okay, think that Moshe was like a dog. A dog will keep burying to go under the fence to get the bone. The intellect's like, okay, I won't get the bone. You want to take that power, that emotion, even if it seems illogical, and then channel it into Kedusha, into holiness.
But this is just the first step. When you encounter someone who seems dominated by Tohu, don't judge their diffuse chaos. Rather, be the dense tikkun core in the relationship that facilitates their trapped sparks into stable flames.
So it's very important, even though if you're working on yourself and you're not facing the same challenges as someone else, don't judge them. Be there to help. Look, like chapter 32 of Tanya talks about, look at what's primary, the godly soul, and realize it's being trapped and held captive by the animal soul. So you can either judge that person and look at them as just one entity, or realize, hey, he truly is a godly soul. He needs help right now. I'm not going to judge him. I'm going to help him. I'm going to try to take the power of tikkun, the power of tohu rather, and fit it into the vessels of tikkun.
Every such nova fuels the ultimate supernova of Mashiach, when every mitzvah performed reveals itself as fuel for eternal light. This week's video is sponsored by Al Cohen from the Diamond Lab.
Give him a call, really text. Any jewelry you need, live grown, regular grown, naturally occurring jewelry. You want to sell him jewelry, it's excellent prices on gold and silver. If you want to melt it down, whatever it is you need, let him know. Tell him I sent you, and he'll give you a special rate. And lastly, please comment and please share. It really helps the algorithm. Remember the newsletter and share and everything else. And check out the end screen. There's more cool stuff, including my more recent videos on how I became religious and the battles and the whole Torah and science seeming to be a conflict, but how to actually deal with that. I made those into a new playlist, shattering the science versus religion illusion. Until next time, thank you for sticking around.